This is Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Rob from The Rob and Slim Show. Check us out every Wednesday on IPMNation.com/52. You are listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is John Corrigan, host of Corrigan's Corner and the editor of The Wrestling Estate, welcoming you to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Frank Cugino, host of Frank About Sports on YouTube, and you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Percy Crawford from Zinger News. You're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Be sure to check out Straight to the Point with yours truly every time we drop one.
Hello out there. This is Tony Myers, a.k.a. Chainsaw Tony, FMW Leatherface. And you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Don't touch that dial.
Reckless Airwaves Radio. This is Frankie McDonald. I'm doing great. You're listening to the Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is MEYK, and you're listening to Reckless Airways Radio.
6 o'clock, bam, BC. Coming up on 6:05. I'm just 25 minutes after 6 o'clock, WNBC.
This is Speech Impediment Man, and when I'm not on the stage, I always listen to my favorite podcast, Reckless Radio, and you should too.
This is Frank Alfenbo, and you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Hey, this is Reckless Airwaves model Valerie, and you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Uncensored, unfiltered, unforgiving radio. And be sure to check me out on the site at recklessairwaves.com.
Welcome to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Uncensored, unforgiving radio that's always willing to push the limits. We don't care about political correctness. We don't need anyone's approval, and we do what we want. We are ready to wreck the airwaves. This is Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Hey, man.
Hey, what's up, Tony?
What's going on? How you been?
Not too bad. Another day. Been looking forward to this as usual. How do I sound on the mic right now, Tony?
Clear as crystal.
Nice. I was using the Blue Yeti microphone for the last couple of years, which is considered a really good one, and I bought myself a little present the other day. I got one of the microphones. Not the microphone that Joe Rogan uses, but the same company, Shure. So I'm hoping that this is even better than the one that I had. So as long as I sound good, that's good.
Yeah, that's a huge step up. That's reinvesting in yourself and your craft. It's kind of I know, I thought about in recent times, like now, that as things evolve and everything, like, the shirt is actually like a made out of spandex shirt. The same thing with the pants and everything, the whole entire leather thing. It's like it'll end up getting customized anyway, you know?
Yeah, I had a girl tell me one time that I knew many years ago, and I don't even know how it came up, but she was like, yeah, I wear pants, but they're not real pants. They just look like pants. And then I had no clue what she was even talking about. And then I looked it up, and I guess there's stretch pants that look like pants. I don't know. There's all kinds of new stuff out now. I guess that's kind of what
Yeah,
you're talking about.
Yeah, and apparently with the material, it's supposed to be like flame retardant. So
Right. So in case
we'll
someone
know
tries to set you on fire.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it again.
Yeah.
And it's went from the last week or two, and it's going to May 8th. So once this fourth wave ends, that's when everyone is pretty much the gates are open back up in Japan, and here we go. I just don't know when. Yeah, I was on the phone with Onita's old lady, and I was just like, because she's pretty much going to be the startup of the office, her and just like a bunch of Japanese business people. And it was just like, she goes, how soon could you get here? Once everything's waived. And I go, tomorrow. Like.
When do you think you're going back?
I mean, there's no definite date. I mean, I have to be back by October and December at the very latest. That's a have to this year because I got to re-sign with the Magic Box Pro people. And, everybody's still going. Things are slowly starting to pick back up for Japan. People are starting to run the regular venues again. But, I mean, there's next to no crowd in any of these. So,
right.
Which is just something that you're going to have to work through. I mean.
Yeah.
As digital and advanced as we all are, which ties into another thing I could bring up, everybody can download. Anybody can download. Anybody can see it online. So during the quarantine times, like that, and this is like lately, Michael Jordan's been going into like so much detail about his life, and it's like, well, yeah, during these quarantine times, like this is your time to communicate with people in podcasts. Like, nobody's doing anything.
Right. I mean, what were you gonna bring up about digital? I'm confused about that.
The downloads that they have and everything. But okay, so now, like, I got this crazy message from this guy over YouTube, and he's like, I just got to have this match. I gotta have it. And I'm like, I feel as I'm going on with all the DVDs and the old VHS and everything all changed over.
Right.
I'm slowly weaning the entire world onto Google Drive, where I could just drag, drop, put stuff in there, and boom, it's yours.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's just basically, and you could share it with anybody. You can. It's saved in. Now Google Drive, I think, is a cloud, basically, right?
Yeah, and you get up to 15 gigs worth of stuff. Unless you want to upgrade for like $25 a month, you get like 100 gigs.
Right.
But herein lies some of the challenge and problems and issues. Yeah, you could do that. I mean, when I start doing a higher volume again with the DVDs and all that stuff, yeah, I would consider it. Hey, it's only $25 a month. But trying to walk somebody through Google, like the first time it was done with me, I was like, what the hell is this? And then, I read it, then I analyzed it, then I overanalyzed it, and I was like, well, let's get to work. Everybody else is using this instead of shipping actual physical, So,
I mean, it's when you think about it from like a wrestling fan standpoint. I mean, what's better than that, though? I mean, you could buy something and have it a minute later instead of sitting there having to wait for the post office to drop it off or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have it in your hands, obviously, but I mean, you have it on your computer. You it's yours. You bought it, so you play it whenever you want. Nothing was greater, and it's been a month since I talked to you, so I don't know if I just caught you. Well, I don't know. I might have just caught you right after I saw it, but there was nothing better than watching that Kong versus Godzilla movie on HBO Max right on my computer. I mean, when I was younger, I used to like going to the movies, but I'm older now. I really don't want to go to the movies and have a bunch of kids screaming in my ear. That was freaking awesome. I got up that morning. I went right on HBO Max, watched it numerous times over the month it was on there. I mean, it's amazing.
I've watched entire movies. I've watched miniseries on my phone. So, I love my stuff the way I love my stuff, which would explain why I have so many divorces under my belt. Like, when I lay down, I want my laptop in my face. That's just the way that it is. Like, I'm going to doze off listening to something, and I don't care if it's with earbuds or whatever. That's just the way, if my kids are home, earbuds. But That's just the way that I like my stuff. That's the way I like my things. And then I plug
Right.
my phone into that, and everybody has to evolve. This makes it so much easier. But what they're doing still in Japan is they're still selling DVDs of the actual events.
Right.
Because the Japanese, they want it signed, or if you're bleeding, they want, just wipe some of your DNA on this. And I always think, but they want the actual physical thing so they could take it around to different wrestlers, get pictures with it and stuff like that. Then coming to the matches with a flash drive, like, hey, sign this, you're on here.
Right.
Can you imagine that? Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
No,
and
it was maybe a year and a half ago. I went and I bought like the 5 terabyte external drive, and it is so awesome. It's like I could just put anything on there, and now I'm starting to like rip all my DVDs and stick them onto that.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I could have 5 backups. It's just I still have to have my VHS. I still have to have my DVDs.
Yeah.
I just don't want to let go.
Yeah, it's the comfort of knowing that you have a physical copy of something, because something could always could go wrong with the computer. But I mean, the one thing about a computer is, like you said, if you have it on the little stick, that's one thing. That's fine. Put it on 2 sticks, 3 sticks if you have to, and then you really are okay. Even if it's on your computer, if your computer dies and you have like a blank screen and it's done, you could still pull the hard drive out and connect it to your new computer and just pull everything off of it. So there's so many ways to do that now. It amazes me when every once in a while I see Rob. We always bring up Rob Feinstein in some form, doing those auctions that he does, and every once in a while I'll watch him for a few minutes just out of nostalgia and stuff like that. That guy's still selling DVDs. I mean, and people are still buying them, which is just amazing. I mean, I think he does digital too, but man.
Everybody's had to evolve. Everybody's had to get with the times. I mean, it's just the way that it is. It's the way it should be. If people would realize that, if you take out the small time to get yourself educated, okay. And there's a whole world of this stuff. There's a whole world of this stuff I still need to crack open for myself. But like, I've never had to worry about like HBO or this or that, because there's always somebody coming to me going, hey man, they're like, I saw on your VHS list you have a copy of Wildcats on VHS. And then the guy goes, hey, man, I have to download it. And it's even got the subtitles. And he's like, they really redid up, the whole, because they're able to touch stuff up with that.
Yeah.
And re-release it. And then somebody puts it on the torrent. And it gets out there. So I have people all the time coming to me with stuff like that. Like, that's how I wound up with WrestleMania. The minute that it ended, somebody was like, you want to check out the first night? And I was like, all right. And then I'm like, what do you need? And the guy's like, I want that 1979 Amarola stuff. And I was like, cool. And then drag, drop, boom, out on hard drive, out on Google Drive, and bam, there it is. And he's like, yeah, download it, man. I'm watching now. Can't wait. You know, so it makes it so easy than having to wait days or stand in the line at the post office. I mean, I make it a habit of going to the post office pretty often. I don't have a choice. I got to mail out people's shirts, and it's so cool that people actually have a clamoring for the stuff I bring back with me from Japan. I still have like a Stardom's program, and these two guys, start arguing over, one of them offered more than the other.
Right.
I let them work it out amongst themselves, but the stuff I bring back, I need to make it a habit of getting more of my own stuff, my collection of stuff. But, that's me being the mark within, within myself of trying to get my stuff.
Yeah.
Another good buddy of mine just sent me a whole ton of stuff from when I did all those indies, like 96, 97, 98, all in Japan. Like, that's before I met Pogo. So you see me on some really weird and obscure stuff.
Before I forget, one of the things, and it's not tied into this directly, but I saw something that was really, I never saw it before. It was like groundbreaking. There was a boxing thing, a boxing show that was on this past weekend on Saturday, and it wasn't even all that big. It was big, but it wasn't that big. It was pay-per-view. And the promotion, basically whenever boxing things go on, I'm sure it happens with everything, a lot of people get the link, right? And then they put it like all over the internet and everything like that. And some of them even sell the link and stuff like that. And this promotion went and sued like all the websites that were like putting the link out there, and like 1,000 people who they found out, either watched the link or whatever, and they were all in the lawsuit. And then I saw today or yesterday, I think it was, that they're giving them like amnesty. You have 30 days to basically pay the $59.99, that the pay-per-view cost, and then you're off the hook. Otherwise, they're going to go after you in the lawsuit still. So that's something that's changed over the years. Because I remember a lot of people used to, like, when Floyd used to fight 10, 15 years ago, would always be talking about just getting a link and stuff like that. I used to buy it only for Floyd Mayweather, because I was a big fan of Floyd. Only because I wanted to watch it on my big TV. I didn't want to sit there watching it on a laptop or something like that. That's going to be, not great footage and stuff. So, and he only fought twice a year, so I mean, it wasn't like it was, every month. But yeah, that's something else you might see down the line. Where maybe even with the wrestling things and stuff, where they actually go after the people and the websites that do that.
Oh yeah, they had done that a whole bunch of times, and then it was when I was on eBay, which is how I started getting a hold of that Papa Christos lady from WWE. I'd gotten like threatening stuff from them, and and I go, well, who owns this footage? That and it was a whole back and forth thing, especially when the network came up, and then they came to me. Actually, they went to Lawler, and they're like, you know a guy there, and Jerry goes, yeah, this guy collects all this stuff. And then they used a bunch of my Detroit stuff and said that they were at least going to mention my name when they went to induct the Sheik. And that was the last time I dealt with them. I go, I want nothing to do with them. Their legal department's cool because they at least heard me out on what I was telling them. And then, you know what I mean? Like this and that and the other. But once I felt screwed over by that, even to this day, and it's not like I have my finger on the pulse. Everybody knows that. But I have a lot of friends that work within WWE that are still there after a lot of years and stuff too. And they used a good buddy of mine. If you've ever seen the animated cartoon cells from Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling that I own.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, same guy that gave them to me. He's an animator out in California. And Kurt Nielsen's done all kinds of acting, and he was in a clip of Beyond the Mat. He dealt with them because, he was really, really tight with Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer, William Moody. Yeah, and they borrowed a bunch of stuff from them. And when they aired the Paul Bearer special, they said a special thanks to him. And I go, I didn't even get that. And then the deeper he and I talked, he goes, Tony, it's a whole brand new. He was like, if you would just go to WWE, he's like, it's different than all the people that used to die. Ann Russo doesn't work, she doesn't answer the phones anymore and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know. Once I felt screwed by that, it was like, Japan was always my goal. WWF was this great thing that I grew up, and then I got to see, and then through Memphis, a job guy and that kind of thing, like, that was great. But Japan was always, especially the weird, obscure indies, and it's like somebody explained to me these angles that are going on. These people are wrestling in a jungle, in the top promotion in the entire country. Like, why are people in, what's going on here?
Right.
So yeah, long story short, I always wanted the weird and obscure stuff to be like shown to me and explained to me. I never, I never saw myself as a WWE guy, and pertaining to like the footage and that kind of stuff, I'd have loved to have worked with them, as much as possible, because, restoring that footage, I went through hell and back to get a lot of the stuff that I got that's really weird and obscure. But, so it's like, you want to hope the best for people. You want all fans to enjoy. I mean, they unearthed the whole last Battle of Atlanta. You know how many like tape shows that was it, man. That was our that was the ultimate treasure to get. You know, and I know it lost all its impact when they just aired it, and there was so many people going, "Oh, they just aired it like it was any old turd on that network," like. At least it was saved and preserved because.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at old Memphis stuff from the late 70s, it almost blows your mind that it's only been the 70s. You know, a lot has changed. So much has changed. And look at the people ringside. They believe the shit was fucking real.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they got mad at the heels.
Right.
They charged the ring. It's like, how... Wrestling's always blown my mind. It's always mystified me. It's always been this crazy, weird, obscure. It's strange.
I still remember
just
when...
like,
I was gonna say, I still remember when even as late as like the mid '80s when remember when Roddy Piper versus Hulk Hogan when they first met in Madison Square Garden with Cyndi Lauper and the other guy, what the heck did they call that?
Dave Wolf.
Yeah.
When it was her husband, Dave Wolf.
Yeah.
Or
they had a name for that show. I can't remember the name, but it ended in a draw, and that set up WrestleMania 1 or whatever. But I still remember, all the people throwing stuff at Piper when he was coming to the ring, came with the bagpipes and all that, and they were throwing drinks at him and stuff. That was a different time. It was much better than WWE today, obviously, which is just, no passion at all like that.
Well, you had three giant things that led into it. It was the brawl for it all, the war to settle the score,
right.
and the brawl that ended all.
Right there.
Yeah.
War to settle the score. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. And what was the third one?
Brawl to settle it all. That was just kind of a regular MSG house show.
Yeah.
But then they kind of renamed it that because Lauper showed up, and they were like, "Whoa,"
Yeah. That was some fun times.
You could tell she left Dave Wolf in the dust. That was her ex-husband. You could tell he was just weaseling money off of Cyndi Lauper, and eventually she got big enough. She told him to fuck off and get out of her house.
Right. I do remember that. Well, what do you think of?
I'll never forget. It was around late '85, and I watched this house show where Piper's like, "You get you a partner. I'll get I got my AC here." And I remember Andre the Giant just beating the shit out of the two of them. And I was like, finally, Piper got it. And then all of a sudden, he threw up the steel snooker, "I love you," as he was leaving. I was like, son of a bitch. I'm like,
you had to really get under the skin.
I was so pissed off.
One of the great memories of that exact time was watching those house shows on the MSG channel. And for some reason, I always remember that at 12 o'clock on the MSG channel, the Untouchables, the old Untouchables black and white show would come on. But I always thought that one of the funnest things about those shows was when they would announce the cards for next month and the dramatic.
Oh my God, that was
your thing
that was
too?
my favorite. That was
God.
my favorite. And especially the long pause by Mean Gene Okerlund.
Yeah. And he would say,
Mean Gene Okerlund. I meant to say Howard Finkel. But when the Fink would pause, and then he'd be like, "Hulk Hogan," and the place would just
go crazy. They would be like, and in the main event, Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff versus, well, I don't know, you know what I mean though. And then they would say Hulk Hogan, and the place would go, basically become unhinged and stuff. And and they knew how to do it, because they would have, Orndorff might have attacked him that night or won a big match against someone else, which set it up, and to get that title shot. It was so fun. I was like a kid back then. I was probably like 8 years old. I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, and the probably the most wonderful part about that too was you were like, whoa. What would a match between the Killer Bees and the Hart Foundation look like? Wow, they're going to wrestle each other. Or they'd be like the fabulous, the Rougeau brothers versus the Conquistadors. And you'd be like, ooh, what the hell's who's a Conquistador?
Yeah, they told you the whole card.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And then
anyway.
will let you, you remember if they put on the big marquee match before before intermission, that meant they were doing an angle. That's why it wasn't closing out the show. Yeah, you knew that meant Hogan was getting counted out against Don Morocco or something,
Yeah.
That was always my favorite. That and just you would wait and come back from commercial break, Gorilla's talking, and all of a sudden there it was. Boom! It would just flash on the screen. And it would be like Jose Luis Rivera versus Lanny Poffo, and you were like, whoa,
Right.
Or, whoever. I'm just making up stuff.
Yeah.
And, or you'd hear the level of excitement, and then, again, it would come back from commercial, long pause, and then all of a sudden it would just light up on the screen, Rene Goulet versus Hillbilly Jim, and you're like, oh my God. Finally, I'm getting to see this fucker wrestle. Like, I've been watching these horrible vignettes he's been doing for all these weeks leading up to it. He's Hogan's friend, da-da-da. It's like, finally we get to see this guy fucking debut.
Right.
There was so much greatness about it. Yes, it was slower. Yes, it was more methodical, but it's just kind of like the Atari graphics. Like, you just have to kind of sort of use your imagination. There was a lot of shit going on. Nobody was looking in their phone. It wasn't a flash in the pan every 3 seconds. Slow, methodical, and great, for its time. But if wrestling didn't. Oh yeah, if they didn't get it out of that dark age, though, they were doomed.
Oh yeah.
There's only so much people would take of that.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun memories, though. It was fun memories, though. That was a different time before all the technology and everything like that, and it was free too. I mean, those shows were free. Before all the pay-per-views came about a few years later and stuff like that. I was going to ask you, what do you think of the WWE network? Basically, I guess they went to the Peacock station and they're editing a lot of the stuff, and I guess a lot of the stuff just isn't even going to be on it anymore. I guess they just basically put it in the boxes and filed it away. So it sounds like a really watered down version. I don't have it, but I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of people complaining about it.
What happened was there was a huge spike about a month or two ago, and I'm like, where are all these people coming from? Because people were like, do you have that pay-per-view as it aired originally? And I was like, yes, it's ripped from my VHS DVD. And they're like all the way from the beginning, like the countdown and everything. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And nobody would believe it. But yeah, I mean, because I always thought that 30-minute countdown was part of the pay-per-view. Like, to me, it was like, this is great because it's summarizing everything right there for you. And then they go, boom, right into the pay-per-view. But, I mean, it was so primitive back then when you look at some of the first stuff that they aired as pay-per-views or on closed-circuit TV, which, if nobody knows about closed-circuit TV, that was just basically like, remember when you were a kid and they would wheel the AV thing in and you'd watch a movie?
Cool,
Yeah, that's what they were pretty much doing in a lot of places, a lot of the closed-circuit places. I remember one of them was like a larger one, and all these people complained about the first WrestleMania because they just wheeled out like a 6-foot TV, but it was in a room full of like 300 people.
Right. But
so they were all in each other's way. There was no way that they could set up the chairs. Yeah, that too, movie theaters.
Yeah,
but it wasn't exactly a movie theater. It was like, I'm trying to think of. Those old movie theaters that never went out of business, and it was at places like that. It wasn't like the modernized movie theater of the 80s,
right. So like the leftover ones.
Yeah, I thought the funniest thing was my mom coming to pick me and my friend up from the movie. And like the movie had ended, I think we went and saw Howard the Duck or something like that. But me and my friend start goofing off, and we start like, there's nobody there when we walk out into the lobby. We're just waiting for my mom to pick us up. And so, I mean, we're just little kids, we're like 13, 14 years old. So we just started like hitting the ladies like butter and splatting it on the floor. And then this big heavyset lady, she waits until my mom comes, and my mom's picking me and my friend up. And she goes out and she starts screaming at my mom, "You got to see what your son and his friend did. There's butter all over my floor, all over my lobby." And my mom just saw this crazy woman yelling, and my mom's like, "Hey, fuck you," and we all just took off in the car. And as soon as me and my friends saw that my mom was on our side, we like flipped out. We were like, "This is the greatest day of our lives." Like, I thought my mom was going to kill me. And my mom's like, "So she waited until this is just a mother and the love for her son,
Yeah.
Like, she knew I was no angel, but I mean, what a dickhead thing for a little kid to do. But, you're just dumbass kids, It was the 80s, It was like somebody was probably going to smack you around a little, and, you just keep going.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about the, movie theaters are, they knocked a bunch of them down here on Long Island. There's still a few around, but I mean, who knows what's going on with them now with the COVID and everything like that. A lot of them, I'm sure, are still shut down. But I think a lot of them are open with limited capacity. But, I mean, my heyday of going to the movies was probably mid-'90s to mid-2000s, and then I kind of tailed off after that. You know, the older I got, the less I really wanted to go. But those, you saw some good ones there. I remember some of the Star Wars movies. I remember one of the funniest ones I went. I think I went twice with my friend, was to see the first American Pie. I mean, people were rolling in the theaters for some of those movies.
We used to go to the movies. We get the free passes when I was in with the Goth Club down there in Memphis. It was like that, and then they would run 80s nights on Friday or Saturday nights. And so it was 2 different clubs, and they were always coming into the club with Grudge 2 and Hard Candy and all these movie passes and everything. So, I'd look up and I'd see all the weirdos from the club in daylight, for once.
Yeah.
Or during the day, and they looked like they were all just waking up too.
Yeah.
And we'd be walking through the movie theater, and everybody would just start cracking up laughing, because everybody that you partied with from the club that you sat there and did all this weird shit with, were right there in the movie. They're going to watch the same movie as you. I remember Hard Candy. It's 20, 25 dramatic minutes of this lady getting ready to cut this, castrate the guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this black dude was right in the middle of the theater, and he just, in the middle of this, after about 20 minutes, he goes, "Man, this bitch finna cut off this man's balls," and the whole theater was cracking up. For 20 minutes, we've all been sitting there watching this lady graphically get ready to cut this guy's balls off, But, it was, I think it was that was around the last of the times that I went to theaters, because then it got to where, you have to get the thing on your phone app, and then you pre-order your food, and it's
it took a lot of the fun away from it.
One thing I'll go to the theater and see, because I'm totally in support of, Kevin Smith is, fellow Jersey boy, and, I thought it was so cool because, I got to meet the cast of Clerks, and it was just by a fluke. Dante and the 2 leads. Dante and his girlfriend from that movie, it was I saw them advertised, and I was like, no way. I was like, these people live out in L.A. The hell are they doing here? And I just thought it'd be so cool, to get to meet them. And I asked some really weird and obscure questions. I went with one of my best friends, Mike, all the way down to Leonardo and Jay and Bob's. Jesus Christ, why am I so tongue-tied? Jay and Sal and Bob's Secret Stash.
Yeah.
And we went in there, we asked Walt Flanagan all these weird questions, and he was like, "Man, no one's ever asked me that." And I'm like, "Oh, yes." I was like, because, you always see these guys get interviewed, and they got to answer the same things
over and over.
I mean, if I forget something, forgive me, and I know I tend to repeat some of my prior stories on here, but within me, there's reasoning for that. You know what I mean? Because could have been something we talked about, or maybe I want to give you more detail, or, maybe there was a funny story that happened. Here lately, I've been thinking about all the pogo ribs that he used to pull, and Onita, and just those guys are a fucking riot. I miss being there for that.
Yeah.
Ken Katai's wakes up and he goes, "Who the fuck threw breadcrumbs all over my floor?" He's like, it's not even. He's like, he just pauses. He goes, "I'm a 51-year-old man," and I look at him and I go, "Yeah, that wears a fucking Jason mask and runs around with a goddamn knife." And he's like, "All right, aside from pro wrestling."
I remember one, just to sum up the movie theater part. I remember I took this girl I was going out with, and she was a goth girl. She was a fake goth. She wasn't a real goth girl, but she thought she was a goth girl, and she wanted to see that Corpse Bride, which came out right around the same time that Hard Candy movie was out in 2005, was when I was with her. So I remember I went with her, and it's not, what is that? It's a cartoon, I guess, right? But it's like one of those uppity cartoons or whatever. It doesn't look like a real cartoon. almost like a clay cartoon or something. You know, I don't know what they call it, but to make a long story short, we go to the theater over there in Patchogue out here, and I remember something happened with the screen where the movie like didn't play for like 10 minutes or whatever. So we're just sitting there, and it's a cartoon. Nobody's like flipping out or anything. And so the usher walks around and he gives everybody in the theater an extra pass to come back. You know, the movie started playing, but they were nice enough to give us another pass to come back again. And
holy crap!
This girl made me watch that Corpse Bride a second time the next day, and I was just like, this girl wasn't so hot. I would be like, I'm not watching that shit again.
Yeah. I can tell you a million stories of like either screwing around with or dating Japanese women, and to me it was like once the relationship was like sustained and it was gonna last longer than just a couple screws, it was like they would sit there on their knees in front of the cat, and I'm like, get up here, like, what's up? I want to spoon with you, man. I want to give me some cookie, girl. But it was this weird, subservient, and I'm like, I'm not about that, man. I'd rather, because like it lowers you into such a false sense of security, like as a guy, because then you feel the girl's like subservient, and then she gets pissed at you, and it reminds me of my fifth wife, where our arguments like would not end.
Right.
And I never shared any of my personal problems with anybody, but while any of this was going on, but Jesus Christ, we would fight, and it would be like all night long. Like it felt like it wouldn't stop,
Drag out fight, cats and dogs.
That was the one movie that we started to watch. I left Hideki Hosaka, the Mr. Pogo 2, who, by the way, the guy is, he's weaned back onto like regular food and everything, so he's still fighting with the stage 4 cancer. Yeah. He's been fighting this thing for like 7 months, ever since he was diagnosed, and then it spread to his liver. It emanated from his liver and it spread to his colon. But he, I remember one time leaving him in the movie theater by himself because I'm like macking on this chick, like 3 or 4 girls came, and he was like, this is like, trust me, this is way before the hell he was married. Yeah. And I'm telling him, like, I'm trying to explain to him, like, this is in Japanese. I don't understand Japanese. There's not even any subtitles for me to read, man. And he's like, no. He's like, here, he's basically telling me, we're here for the girls, man. I was like, oh, yeah. So I get to macking on the one chick, and he got so pissed off because I left him in the movie theater. And this is before, cell phones. He didn't know how to get a hold of me. So I just kept having to circle the building. I went outside and I was like, there's got to be a place for us to like, crank one out. Like there's got to be some place. Right. And the girl and I'm like encouraging the girl, and she barely speaks any English. I spoke like hardly any Japanese at this point, and I'm like, to me it's kinkier if we do it out in public. Like what's up, girl? Let's go find some place. And after all this, come to find out, and he told me this years later when my Japanese got good. He goes, what pissed me off so much was, he goes, you just fucking left. You didn't tell me where you were going. And he's like, when I realized you weren't coming back, he was like, I got scared. I started walking around the fucking building looking for you. I don't know where the fuck you went. He was like, you didn't leave me a note or nothing. I can't speak your language. He was like, where did this crazy guy go? And then it was like, it wasn't too long after that, Pogo's like, he likes to get hit in the head with a chair. He's a fucking idiot. And I was like, I didn't know what he was saying until... Right. Again, everything's a retrospect, because I'll bring up these memories to the people that are still around, and I'll be like, what was going on there? And they remember everything.
Yeah.
Hiroshi Watanabe. Hiroshi Watanabe is a guy I've wrestled like every fucking Friday night for Battle Aid Pro Wrestling. That was like being booked. Yeah, that was being booked by Tiger Chung Lee, Kim Duck. And it was just like, even with him, I remember him all the way back from the IWA Kokusai days, which, I did a couple things with them in like 94, but by 95, 96, he was there. And I'll bring up something from then, and he'll just start bursting out laughing. And everybody always like jokes with me that I'm the only one that liked IWA Kokusai. Like, everybody else hated it. They hated working there. They appreciate the experience they got, but they were like, oh, leave that place in the past. And I'm like, that place was fucking awesome. And they're like, yeah, because it was like the free-for-all. You could basically do whatever the hell you wanted to do. Like, nobody had a clue what was going on. As long as Goro Surumi was in his own main events and getting all of his shit in, he didn't care.
Right. I was going to say one other memory that as far as movie theaters that just came to mind is I made the mistake of going with that same girl actually around that same time as we went to see The Exorcism of Emily Rose or Emily Page. I can't remember which one it was. And, it was just your standard 2005 exorcism movie, a lot of talking, a little bit of, exorcism stuff here and there. And it was an okay movie. It wasn't great, but man, we went on a Saturday night and man, you just don't go to movies on a Saturday night, especially when you're like, I think I was like 30 at that time or whatever. So, I mean, those kids were right next to us and they were just screaming their heads off. And this was an exorcism movie. It wasn't like the comedy or whatever. And I remember I turned to her and I was like, do you want to go? And she was like, no, why do you? Like real snotty. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a long night. And I just hung in there for the night. But it was like, that was the only time I ever went to the theaters that I could remember on a Saturday. But that's a rough night to go because all the kids are just going crazy. Well, they used to. I don't know. Probably not anymore, but.
Yeah. It's probably like you show up there and there's some Saved by the Bell bullshit going on. Like,
yeah.
That's the only negative I have about my regular gym that I go to. I'm like, get rid of this fucking Saved by the Bell bullshit. Like, I come here to work out. I don't care. Like,
well, what do you mean by that? They like flirting and stuff?
No, I mean, like, bullshit like that, or a girl will come with her friends and will be like, all right, look, camel toes, some people are serious. Like, get off the fucking machine if you're not going to, yeah. But
they have to take selfies and stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, like goofy stuff like that. It's like, yo, get rid of this shit, Like, fucking, I'm sure Zach Morris is somewhere else. Like, get lost. Oh my God, the wildest thing I've ever seen in a movie theater took place like at a Q&A. It was the 10-year anniversary of one of the most fucked up movies. If you've ever seen Audition, and I knew about that movie.
Never even heard of it.
It's a Japanese movie with it's got English subtitles. Really, really famous in the horror genre and torture and all that. It's just, the movie's fucking nuts. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of the equivalent, but in way bigger detail of American Psycho, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is like with the volume turned way up. But yeah, see, so I went to see the 10-year anniversary of this movie, and afterwards they did a Q&A with the guy that directed it and all that. And my Japanese was just coming around at this time. I can understand what people are talking about. Some of the details are kind of left out or murky or blurry because, I didn't start studying and didn't become fluent until around 2014. So they got the director, and all of a sudden these women are telling him, shame, this is a disgrace. Don't you realize that you put out a movie like this? People are going to think all Japanese people are slobs. And this is 10 years after you did this. And they're like, is this your proud moment, standing up here, charging people $80 for a ticket to come watch your pathetic movie where you're just, you have issues. Why would you glorify this? And there was a whole group of women. And I'm like, these people paid $80 a ticket just to come down here and fuck with this guy?
Right.
For Japanese people, that's very, 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 that never happens. You don't see, I've seen an argument happen in the gym, and I've seen people argue in public, but for them, that is so far out of the way. That's so far-fetched. It's just how did this happen,
Right.
For them, it's an entirely new level of Japanese people don't act that way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, that's strange to hear for sure.
I love the old lady. I miss my house so much. The old lady that lives on the second floor, that that's got the whole second floor.
Yeah.
She goes, what'd you wind up doing today? And I go, my buddy Jay was in town, Jay Landry.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, he took us to the Maid Cafe. And she goes on and on about her disdain for the Maid Cafe. She's like, Japanese people don't act like that. She's like, so over the top cute and love, yeah. She's like, Japanese people don't act like that. She's like, and the one girl she would go off on was a girl that actually went to my church over there. And the girl would wear like short skirts, and I just remember her rolling her eyes. She's like, "Oh my God, she's got her skirt up to here, tits are hanging out. I don't know what the hell she's wearing that shit to church for." She's like, "Oh God Almighty."
Wow. I wanted to ask you, this guy. We were talking about this offline the other day. This guy Drake Younger. He was a ref in the WWE. He was on the independent scene and stuff like that. He got himself in some trouble with, I guess controversial right wing kind of stuff. I have the article actually right up here. It doesn't say a whole lot. I guess Joey Janela said something or tweeted something, but you came in contact with this guy, right, on the indie scene, or you knew of him at least, right? you did? Okay.
Yeah. Give you a brief synopsis. 2007, late 2006, I get the word that WWE no longer, is interested with the commentary. I didn't have to go to OVW no more. And, they were having me like stay after and do stuff that wasn't even airing on TV. And I'm like, this is so pointless. But at that point, I was trying to take advantage of the broadcast journalism degree and everything. So they let me know, now's not the time, whatever. It was heavily, I was going through Viscera for that anyway. And I kind of jumped for joy. I go, fuck it. Let me go back to Japan and do this, do that. And I told you at the time I'm working at this Gothic nightclub. Yeah. And I helped finance it. I helped finance their equipment. Basically, it was a mess. Nobody really had any money, but there was a good cult of kids that would come out to this Gothic nightclub. So I told my friend, all right, we'll do it. Viscera introduced me to that guy because he was a guy that went to his wrestling school and told Vis, he was like, I think I just want to do, the kid's like a goth kid and he's around my age. So he's like, I just want to do death matches. I just want to try it, So Viscera directed him to me. Lo and behold, the guy's the head DJ there and, we become tight. After the WWE thing, I start sending feelers out. Now I'm routinely going into the golf club, and these kids are seeing all these scars all over me from all the death matches that I'd done, up to that point in Japan. So, God, I'm trying to give you the abbreviated thing, and I'm winding up rambling. But okay, we held an event at this dive bar, no ring death match, and we called it Sex and Violence because the girls from the goth club were, gonna wrestle, and it's on YouTube, and they get down and all that shit. They wrestle in Jello, and they're feeling each other and all that shit. And then I go into the first Sex and Violence, and I'm trying to think of the guy. All right, abbreviated notes. It's me and the DJ, and he's every bit a goth, and he's a bleeder. And, so we do that first event. Now Sex and Violence is starting to catch a little fire. I got one club offering me $1,500 a month to come in there and do that for one night, and I got to take care of the guys out of that, and everybody around me that's going to stay loyal. And then the other place across town, eventually, years later, was giving us like $2,500 a month, or once a month to come in there and do that. So now we're looking at like every 2 weeks we're having so I needed guys, and Pondo was one of the first ones. When I explained to him about the no ring death match, he was all for it. And then as time went on, we eventually got a ring because now people were staying over at my house and wanting to be trained, and other people from the club wanted to wrestle, and the whole thing just it was intentionally set out to be the worst indie promotion I could make it, kind of like a takeoff of the Pink Flamingos movie by John Waters.
Yeah.
So I come across Drake Younger, and he came highly recommended. He was CZW champion at the time, and when he came down, the first minute he showed up, I was like, this guy's got a serious fucking drug problem. He's asking me the second that I go to pick him up from the airport, hey, man, you know, do your bands get down like that, man? But nice guy, just very temperamental, and, you know, he was clearly in the middle of a drug addiction, a really fucking bad one, to the point he couldn't go 5 minutes without, you know, asking me, you know, who's got what's up around here and shit. And anyway, so when I saw him drop all the weight, stop doing the deathmatch shit, and, you know, he was thankful for his wife because his kid was on the way and everything. But to watch him have to go through some of the filthy indies, including mine, and shit like that he had to go through all that shit as a roundabout way of winding up with a job where you're not even taking bumps, really, as a referee in the WWE. You know, the minute you go up there, he's been told by everybody what a corporate environment is. You can't go onto some old boy's, you know, website and application, and you know what these people are about. They're a sick bunch. Did you see the thing where he said, he went up into the court of law, and he told the town council. He told all the people of the council, and he said, you know, you see, there's the, you know, they're all about conspiracy.
Right.
And this is why I don't try to push my religious views on people, because people might view me as crazy or whatever. It works for some of us. Other people, it does not work for. But he told them that we have a serious child abduction problem worldwide, child trafficking, which, hey, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with being precautious.
Yeah.
These people don't know when to cut it off. And he told the judge and everything, well, you see, and he tried to tie it into wearing a face mask or not.
And also something with abortion,
no.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he told them, well, you see, if I wear a mask, if my child wears a mask, you can't tell the look of panic in their eyes if they're being abducted and not with their rightful parents.
Right.
So this is what you're looking at.
So
These are not rational.
Basically.
These are not rational or sane people. I'm sorry. I almost hate to say it. Because you know what? He's one of the guys that kept in touch with me when I went to Japan. And, hey, man, I know I was a real drug addict and asshole back then. And, you know, we got all that out of the way. We talk more about our kids. And we, you know, I haven't heard from him in, you know, this past year, which is making me think that they got to him when he's went down under. His brain, his thinking, his morale, shit. Whatever's going on in his head is scary.
Yeah.
People can be manipulated, you know.
Yeah, he's been brainwashed, apparently.
I mean, and to know good and well that you work in a cushy corporate environment job where you have job security. You're winning like the head official or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude,
something like that.
Do you want to be? Does he want to be back on the indies fucking doing scabby death matches for $80 a night, or does he want to fucking use his head and go, thank God I got out of that shit without someone ripping into my eye with something sharp? You know, and the guy lost half a nipple one time during a death match, you know. What the hell are some people? I'm not trying to lash out at him, and you know what? You know, I noticed a very big increase from even like, it seems like the shows that we do, there's more and more of an increase of people that go back, even on my YouTube, I've noticed. So, you know, I know somebody will pass it on to him, and I know that eventually he'll stumble across this, but, buddy, fucking get your fucking head together. What the hell's wrong with you?
I mean, you really didn't say anything bad about the guy, though. You just said that he's not, you know, he's saying stuff that would get him in trouble with WWE. You know, everybody said that, though. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. You know, I almost hate to say it, man. I think I liked him better when he was on drugs. Hard drugs.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that.
At least it was. At least you could get through to a guy like that, because somebody got through to him. He cleaned up.
Right.
He sobered up.
Right. Yeah.
He has to be squeaky clean there because
he didn't lose his job, though, right? He's just suspended. I mean, I'm looking at the article. It doesn't really tell you that. It just says what he said, and CM Punk said something about him. or hinted at it or whatever. They don't say if he's suspended, fired, or I don't think he's fired. I don't think.
I think
maybe it's still up.
It's got to be some kind of suspension because he wasn't there. He hasn't been there for. Yeah, I don't watch the current product. I know what people tell me.
Right.
I don't even think he's in the building when
right.
when all these matches are taking place. So
I
think that was. Yeah, somebody in the office probably told me, "Hey, look, man, lay low for a bit, man. You gotta. It's a lot of heat on you for that, man.
Right.
You know what these people are about.
Yeah.
You know what these people are about. You know what. You damn near know what you're getting into. You know the perception of them. I'm pretty sure you looked it up by now. Or there's a reason why.
Absolutely. Right.
I'm not that guy. Like, I'm the last guy. Whenever someone tells me, "Oh, that guy's an asshole," and I'm the last guy to agree with them, because I'll put it out there, but I don't want somebody taking a shot at me. But if I have to find out one way or another that you're, trash, well, if it costs me something in the meantime, that's just the way it's got to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For you to find out yourself, yeah.
Yeah, you got to find out by yourself.
Yeah, I'll keep a guard up, but I'm not going to let somebody manipulate, or because they could have a personal beef that you don't know about.
Exactly.
But so I'm that guy.
Right.
But I mean, the thing with him, my God, whatever's got a hold of him, man. Dude.
Well,
can you imagine that?
Hopefully he straightens himself out again for the second time, but we'll see. Hopefully, he doesn't lose his job over this. It's just not worth it. But that's his life. He's got to deal with that himself. We'll see what happens with that. I wanted to ask you also.
This has been, too. It's been going on. It's been going on for a while now. So
Yeah, he has demons.
It all got brought to light a while ago, and he won't give up. He won't stop.
Right. Yeah. We'll see.
I'm
we'll
sorry
see what happens.
You were saying.
Well, I was going to say I'm excited for the one of my favorite things is just beyond the what do you call it? Make sure I get the name right. Jesus, I'm just having one of those dark. I was going to say beyond the mat. I meant to say dark side of the ring. That's it.
Oh yeah.
And it's starting up again.
Do you know how many? It's amazing. I have the most diverse bunch of coworkers at my regular job here while I'm stateside.
Yeah.
They are all getting into it. Like, they're like, dude, I watched that episode with that black dude, New Jack. Holy shit.
That was a good one.
And then, like, you have to tell these people about your interactions with people like that. Like,
right.
the craziest thing is, every interaction I've ever had with New Jack has been, like, beyond cordial. Or even bust my balls.
Yeah.
That says something. I
gotta say,
like we're through them.
No, I was going to say the one thing about the series that I really like is, for the most part, every one of these episodes that I've seen over the first 2 years, I knew who the wrestler was. I knew most of the story. Even the one that I really didn't know much about, the Herb Abrams UWF one, was so interesting to me because I didn't know anything about it. I knew the name, but I didn't know the story, and it was just fascinating. The ones that are coming up this year, I think they only have 3 listed. One of them's already on YouTube. I think you can watch it, but I'll watch it on the regular, TV in a couple of days. The Pillman one, obviously, we all know is going to be good. We know most of that story or a lot of that story. I'm surprised that they're doing a Nick Gage one, although I shouldn't be because they did a New Jack one. It doesn't have to be a WWE or a main, type big name to be on this series. And the Collision in Korea, I don't know much about, so I'm curious to see that. I guess that was with Inoki and Flair. So far so good. I wonder what the rest of the series. I think they're online. Those are the 3 that they have listed.
To me, what makes it interesting when you hear about an episode is how much can they get out of that. Like, that's what I was thinking about the Brawl for All.
Yeah, that was a great one. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and I actually, that's like one of my. It's one of my more favorable ones. But
I love the way they talk to the people. Like, they talk to Butterbean and they talk to who was the guy that broke his back with D'Lo Brown? They talk to him.
Yeah. Droz.
He's still, Droz. He's still alive, but obviously
Darren Drozdov. Yeah.
Yeah, Droz. Yeah, and I love when they show them today and they think back to it and they talk about it, and it's just fascinating. I like how they throw Cornette in there and Russo and guys like that just to give their take on it. It's a very well put together documentary. And like you said even guys that you work with, I'm sure they're not all big wrestling fans, and they enjoy it too, right?
They're not. They're anything but. Like the one guy is, but he's into WWE for like storylines. He's the guy. He's the guy that came to me and actually said, "Oh, I didn't know wrestling paid in Japan."
What do you think?
That shows you about how into. Yeah, that shows you. Yeah. I gave up Thanksgiving, Christmas, Christmas Eve, New Year's Day, and my birthday for nothing. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, they're just. I almost want to call them civilians, but we need a good term for non-wrestling fans and people that don't want to know about it.
What about just like casual fans? That's what they call boxing fans, who really don't follow it unless something big is going on. Just casual wrestling fans, I guess, or casual fans. Period. I don't know. Not a fan, but something like that.
When you're talking to somebody and you're like, they're not the internet scrolling type, because
right.
Last thing I'm going to do is argue with anybody over wrestling, but there is an awful lot that needs to be said to fill in the blanks to who some of these people are and how it came to be.
Right.
And there's a general story that, off the top is not told as much because they know that you're a wrestling fan already, and they know what ECW is. But you know what I mean? You have to give a bit of a story, of a backstory on So
there's a lot to the story that it's hard to explain, especially if you didn't see it or weren't there or something like that. They should do and I'm sure it's coming. I mean, you would think it would be coming. They have to do a Dark Side of the Ring about ECW. I mean, ECW the promotion has to happen.
Yeah, I think
there's too much there.
That might be the equivalent of like Mystery Science Theater 3000 when they go, why didn't you do all the Ed Wood movies? And they go, they did do a couple, but they just said Plan 9, too easy. ECW Dark Side of the Ring would be just too easy.
Oh, it would be amazing.
It's
That's a
been so well documented too. Oh yeah, I mean it's been so well documented too. Yeah.
Yeah, the Nick Gage one I'm curious to see because I know Nick Gage. Everybody knows Nick Gage, but I know he went to jail. He's violent. He's got a bad temper. At least maybe that's his character. Maybe that's him in real life. Who knows? I don't know. But I'm curious to see how they lay that out. I'm sure Cornette will say it's a waste to watch, but I'm still looking forward to it.
Gage was one of the guys too that I contacted about coming in with the aforementioned death match, and the girls acting like sluts, promotion, sex and violence. With Gage, if you ever got to see Feinstein's shoot interview with him when he came out of jail, really interesting. He goes through all the events of
what did he go to jail
led up
for again?
to. It was bank robbery.
Bank robbery.
And
okay,
he wasn't wearing the bandana that he. Yeah, which the inside joke was always he didn't wear the bandana that he usually wears on the way to the ring over his face when he really went to rob a bank. But he was one of the guys, and he was really cordial and courteous to deal with. It was a third party that stepped in for him that screwed it all up. Because anyway, but with Gage, I always found him like really cordial, courteous, and he's going to put in the work. No doubt about that. If anybody brings him in or anything, I mean, God, just imagine losing both your parents within a few years span, both due to cancer. Then your brother is a very successful, and Justice Payne was doing really good. He, Gage's older brother, he welded all this stuff all over the city of Philadelphia. And those guys make great money, and plus they're in the union and everything.
Right. What was he, a welder?
Yeah. And, now it's come out that he committed suicide by jumping off the Walt Whitman Bridge.
Oh, man.
He was going through a divorce, and man,
he lost everybody. Lost his whole family, basically.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. And that was last year. I couldn't believe. I knew he was going through some things, but, when it came out, even at his death, I was shocked kinda, but then I took a step back and I was like, God, like of all people, like at least to me, I've always heard the horror stories, but he was always good to me too. He was always a really down to earth guy. But just what a crazy. And then here's his younger brother. What a crazy. The story alone, and it gets comical in parts. The way he tells it and the way he kind of laughs at himself. Right. He's completely out of the Nick Gage character. Right. And he when he goes into like real details, and even about the part where he sees two cops in a Wawa, he walks in, he sees the two cops, he looks over there at the newsstand just to grab a newspaper, and there's his picture. There's the picture of him right in the corner of the freaking thing when he picked it up, turned to page 7 for the story.
Right.
And he was like, this is crazy. All those parts of his story, or he went to turn himself in, and he grabs the 2 doors, and they're locked.
Oh, man. So he couldn't even get in?
And he was like, so he was like, what's that? He's like, that's a sign. He said the second he turned around, 2 cops were standing there, and they're like, hey, we know you. And I was like, yep, you got me.
Yeah.
How,
amazing.
Oh, my God. It's almost between that and if you've ever heard of Eddie Valentine, the guy, he robbed the bank. He was one of CZW's, one of the guys going back to 2000, 2001. He started with them. Yeah. He wound up robbing a bank to pay for his brother's surgery. You talk about something crazy, right?
Right. That's crazy. That's unbelievable. There was another guy.
And he's not pro.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff Gaylord. There's another pro wrestling bank robber. Jeff Gaylord. He robbed the bank with his wrestling mask.
Yeah.
And somebody recognized him from old tapes. From some old tapes they had. They were like, "This is Jeff Gaylord."
Right.
He robbed us in his wrestling mask.
I think
he was wrestling as the Hood.
Right.
And he wore the hood into the bank, and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, that's I've been looking at old wrestling tapes, man. That was Jeff Gaylord."
Oh man, this guy that I'm trying to see. I'm looking it up. This guy, I had him on once too. When Floyd Mayweather was fighting Conor McGregor, I had a bunch of MMA guys on. And I had this guy Sergio Da Silva on, who was a UFC fighter. He was known in the MMA field. He was a big name. He had a 500 record, maybe even a little below 500 record. He was a good, nice interview. He was a good guy, and then he got accused of robbing a bank, and he said he didn't do it. I remember seeing him on social media saying that he'll be cleared and all that, and then I think he got convicted actually, and he wound up dying the next year. They never said what he died of. Yeah, he died at 34, real young too. But he was guilty of bank robbery in 2019, and then he wound up dying. I don't want to speculate because I haven't thought of this guy in about a year or two. But I wonder if he just committed suicide. Who knows? They didn't really say. It happened.
This guy named Donnie Hart came up to ECPW. He was all blown up. He was all sauced up, and Gino had eyes for him because, he's a giant guy, all monster, all roided up and shit. And he would cut these, his promos. The guy that was recording it for the TV that they are on cable access, and ECPW was one of the places that, I trained at when I was a kid. One of the 4 wrestling schools up here in Jersey I attended. But, so this guy, his promos were so bad that the guy that was filming it for the camera brought him and showed him to me. He's like, watch this. And the guy's match was probably the worst match I've ever seen in my life. And, but he looked like $1 million standing there, so they were willing to give him more of a chance. Then all of a sudden, the camera guy that was laughing about it to me, maybe 2 months later, sent me a link. And I was like, that's funny. I was like, because it said, Donnie Hart goes to jail or goes to prison for.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I looked at it and I go, oh my God, there's a real article. I go, this fucking guy was so zonked out on Xanax and all kinds of other shit. He I guess, jumped the counter in a Walgreens and threatened to kill somebody if he didn't get his oxycodone.
Oh man! Wow.
Yeah.
He was.
I was like,
died.
oh my God.
So he went to jail for that.
No, I don't know where he is. I don't want to say anything bad, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Because if you're that hooked, if you're that screwed up on that shit, it's only getting worse.
Oh yeah.
You're ancient. You're ancient history at that point.
Right. Yeah.
When you've had the friggin'. Oh, that's the same thing that Tyson Tomko guy did. The exact same thing. He charged into a Walgreens, and I think it was a syringe he held to the doctor's throat. He's like, "You're gonna get me my shit, or I'm gonna inject you with this whatever's in the needle."
Wow.
And they found him like 45 minutes later down the street in a Chili's bathroom, all shot up with junk.
I didn't know that happened with Tomko. I remember Tomko.
Yeah.
When did that happen? A long time ago, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think that was like oh God, don't quote me. God, why do I want to say like 2010, 2011? Because when I heard of it, I was like, I always heard that he was like the most straight, square, straight edge guy, and it's the same thing with Test. They said even after years of him being like a roadie and bouncer for Motley Crue, he wasn't really partying. He wasn't really messing with the shit they were messing with because he was like terrified of it. He was like, man, these guys are all junked up. You give him a couple of years into the wrestling business, and yeah, he's all got all screwed up on that shit.
I have a great question for you, and I just thought of it now. All the years that I've been having you on, and we've talked for hours upon hours, I just had a crazy memory come back to me of holding probably RF videos. Well, maybe it's not RF videos. Maybe it was like a dirt sheet or whatever from the 90s. And I would look at it, and I specifically remember laughing about this and showing it to my friend at work. And it was tapes from Japan. Don't know who they were. It could have been nobodies. I don't know. Tell me about these matches where supposedly, I don't know if this is true or not, they had syringes with HIV blood in them on the outside of the ring that obviously you could fall onto, and also piranhas. Were those real, or was that just a bunch of BS?
The piranhas, the crocodile, piranhas,
I never heard of the crocodile. I heard the piranhas. There's crocodiles too. Oh man. Crocodile
was Matsunaga lost the match, and afterwards, per stipulation, he had to wrestle a crocodile, and it was legit. It was a crocodile, but it was all, it was all gimmicked up.
Yeah.
Same thing with the piranha fish tank. That was
so
a
it wasn't real piranhas, right?
Yeah, it was. It was real piranhas.
Did anybody ever fall
and
on that?
you have to get somebody. You have to get somebody bleeding for piranhas to get all worked
to go
up.
Crazy.
Once they see or taste blood, it's on. So yeah, Matsunaga's that fucking crazy. He legit, got his head stuck into the piranha tank, and when they felt the piranhas attacking, that's when that part was at work. But as far as the HIV syringes, there was something back in 95, 96.
That's about what it was.
Yeah, out in California, it was called Incredibly Strange Wrestling. It was ran, owned, and operated by J.R. Benson, Jeff Benson, and Ron Head out of California. And they always had Stacy, Cornette's now wife.
Yeah.
She was with them too. Because they did the whole thing with in Incredibly Strange Wrestling, they had a gimmick of the rapist. And what was it? Oh, J.R. Benson. Whenever a girl would piss on him, he'd like Hulk up and do like the Hulk Hogan. I got all that stuff on VHS and DVD also. Where, Dave Meltzer would report on them, and Meltzer would get a kick out of them. Yeah, they did a blade on a rope match where it was like, if you if you were pinned, you had to forcibly go over there and gig yourself with the blade.
Right. Oh man.
Oh yeah, like the girl giving J.R. Benson a golden shower is a complete shoot. You see the girl pull her underwear down, and they're doing it in dive bars and they're doing it in smaller places like that. The folks over at Hentai Pro and even the lower level sleaze, like I was involved in a video called Skull Shit, and there was absolutely 0 people in the audience. And it was just, it wasn't pornographic, but it was just wrestling sleaze. You were in there with like trainees, you know, and or whatever. But there's even a market for that, the sleaze wrestling of Japan. And, you know, you look at the promotion, Fighting Ultimate Crazy Kings. They do simulated blowjobs, but I could send you a clip where the guy eats out the girl's ass and eats her out, and he's finger banging her, and she squirts, and he takes his wet hand and just sops it up, you know, throws it like it's holy water, just sprinkles it all over the fans, and you see there's fans there. There's maybe 2,000 people.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that goes on in DDT or the lower level sleaze indies that like Miss Mongol books a lot of those girls to go in there and do that kind of stuff, where they wrestle nude. And Pogo even did a death match with one of those girls, with one of the girls that work at the burlesque, the stripper bars. And there's a match with me and the Oshisano that took place in a gentleman's club. And all the girls are dressed in all these doily things, and they're all, you know, over-the-top cutesy Japan. So we made it a point to Irish whip each other into them as much as possible in one match. And then, you know, I pick up the chainsaw, and then the girls scream and run. And there's clips of that. Like, whenever I synchronize, whenever I record, whenever I take the audio from the show, and you notice when I upload it to YouTube.
On YouTube,
Yeah. All those clips are from shows just like that, like lower end. Some of them are lower end sleaze, which are great because even if someone's only paying you $300 or $400 to come in for a show like that, like the merch you do is way better. The merch is like, it just has some of the weirdest, most bizarre. The fans at 666 aren't like that as much because they've seen me in a billion incarnations. I once wrestled. It was like guys and girls. We were like a bunch of gay invading zombies from outer space that invaded the 666 wrestling school, their dojo. And the whole point of the match was we were trying to get them to wear our flesh-colored underwear to turn them into one of us. So it's like, you know, you see guys like getting their fucking tights, like legit wrestling tights, like ripped off, or their trunks, or they're wrestling in a jock strap. So there's always been that, you know, incredible level of sleaze indies. But to me, they're even more fun because it's like, who the hell comes out to see this shit? When I did Hentai Pro and I wrestled Hanawa, there's like, I was only one of 2 regular wrestling matches. The other matches were all like, which guy can get a girl to orgasm the fastest by eating her out of pussy, you know. Yeah, and that's just the way that it is. Like, and I looked around, and I even recorded like a bunch of that on video. And like, I look around, and I'm like, these are like normal people, like, but how abnormal is it for them? Like, they're not as prudish and as bad about censorship as we are. Like, they just, I don't know how they get the people of that country to behave the way that they do, but they just do.
Yeah.
It's beyond strange, but you know.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, but as far as the so it was real piranhas, and the HIV needles was that. There's no way there was real HIV in those needles.
I'm thinking the HIV needles might have been insanely strange wrestling, or that might have been DDT. That might have been DDT promotion there, though, or that might have been 666.
Yeah,
I have to go and look that up.
Yeah, but I couldn't imagine.
If anything, if anything, it was probably a gimmick from Big Japan, like, oh yeah, there's HIV in here too,
right?
You know, as a joke.
That's what I'm thinking.
But
yeah,
I know that. I do know for a fact though that ISW, because it used to be Incredibly Strange Wrestling, ran by Johnny Legend. Johnny Legend was the guy. If you ever saw all those old commercial videos where they'd air all these like music videos in Memphis, Tennessee, and it would show Adrian Street, then it would show like Austin Idol, then there would some crazy dude would jump up on the screen and be like, and now our next video is Bruiser Brody, you know, and it would be him. That was Johnny Legend.
Right. Yeah.
So he started Incredibly Strange Wrestling. But then around 95, 96, Ron Head and Jared Benson took over and made it Extremely Strange Wrestling. So they had Harley Racist, Ku Klux Clown, the Rapist. They just had all these like beyond over the top. Like we borrowed Ku Klux Clown, which was me. We borrowed that gimmick because I got a hold of, Jared Benson. I go, what would it take to, and he goes like, oh no, man, I appreciate you keeping the fucking thing alive. And, of course, the show ends with Ku Klux Clown, like, making out with this, like, really hot black chick, which, of course, was my wife at the time. So, we did a lot in the ways of emulating, like, when, I guess it harkens back to the whole sex and violence thing. We were never supposed to be like a legit indie. We just wanted to be something way different.
Right.
A man wrestled a steel chair. That's all stuff that I saw in Japan on the occupation of the indies and on on the undercard of like, I'm trying to think of a shitty indie that I did that had stuff like that. Well, a lot of the 666 stuff, which is a sister promotion of DDT.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to me, they had a table versus a chair, which somebody was really underneath the table and knocked over. Oh no, they had chair against ladder. Or table against ladder. And, the entire lineage of the DDT, like heavy metalweight title, which wound up making its way over here, where it's basically 24/7, but inanimate objects can hold the world title, which is like why they had a bowl beat a table, because a bowl sits on the table. And then a grain of rice became the champion because the grain of rice was inside the dish, which, that's a cover, 1, 2, 3. Then they had chopsticks become the new champion because the chopsticks ate the grain of rice. That kind of thing. It's just so over the top, bizarre, and weird that, you want to know about it almost.
Yeah.
You're like, how silly is this? I mean, when a Yakitori became the brand new DDT Iron Heavy Metalweight champion, because who the hell was it? He ate the Yakitori, but he got the stick sitting on his chest. So a referee went over there and counted. And they're like, Yakitori is your brand new champion.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I'm thinking that you're thinking of Incredibly Strange Wrestling.
Yeah.
I know that they had a match advertised as hypodermic, HIV-infested needles.
Yeah, I
that
remember
match.
that. Yeah, I still remember the picture for some reason, and they were like only probably be like 250 needles or something like that, just basically glued standing up. And if you got thrown out of the ring and landed on that, you're fucked. You got HIV. That's nuts. It was like 90s. It was like the mid 90s. Yeah, it's crazy. I wanted to ask you,
which they stole. They basically stole from the whole Saw movie. Once the syringes came involved, you started seeing them all over the place. Death matches.
Yeah. Two more things before we end this, Tony. All the years I've been talking to you, I don't know how I missed this. Maybe I just didn't see you posting about it, but I didn't know that you were a Mets fan.
Die hard. To the point there's something wrong with me, because any Mets fan can relate to this. Even if we're losers, there are losers. I'm not jumping ship. Never. My grandfather lived to be 97 years old. He was the most diehard Mets fan literally until the day he died.
Right.
And just, they grew on me. I mean, in the mid-'80s, they were the bad boys. They were a bunch of losers, you know? And then everything, Gary Carter, all the way down, everything just came together for them. They had that magic season in them with, Mookie Wilson, Darryl Strawberry. It seemed like everybody, it seemed like the entire team, everybody was a star. And I want to relive that over and over. Being in the sixth grade, and the Giants win the Super Bowl, and then the Mets win the World Series. Give me 1 year of that, of a life like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think this is going to be the year that the Mets get to the World Series. They look kind of not complete, but we'll see what happens. Some decent pitching here and there, not so great hitting, but we
our
just got this
bullpen
new owner,
sucks.
so yeah.
That's the problem. The entire problem right now is, it's going to take time to work out the kinks, sure, but you cannot stick Jacob deGrom, that poor guy. I mean, they have dumped all the responsibility, and nobody can close for them. And God forbid deGrom gets injured. Then we're really screwed.
It's amazing that he only has. I mean, he's been around a little while now, and he's only got like 70 wins or something like that. I mean, he's going to wind up like winning like 125 games for his career, 130, 40 games. Nowhere near 300 wins.
He appears to be the kind, and how he has not went to management and said, "Hey, I got to get traded. I got to get out of here." Because, I mean, everything's being put on his shoulders. No, we don't really have any hitting at all.
No.
I mean, I'll be the first one to admit our shortcoming and faults, but
yeah,
our hitting is terrible. Our hitting is awful. We got nobody in the bullpen. It's only a matter of time before Jacob deGrom is like, can I go back to Florida? Like, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
How he's put up with it at this point, I mean.
I still have fingers crossed that, this will be a good year. It's still early. It's not looking great so far, but never know. Still a decent team.
There's potential.
They're just underachieving.
Which is typical of the Mets. That and choking. It's like choking is our. I mean, I have like so many great memories, of being a Mets fan that I'll never let it go.
Same here.
Mike Piazza drills one to deep left center. You'll like this one. Little roller down the first base line.
Oh yeah.
And it's behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Right around the score. Nobody brings up the wild pitch.
Yeah.
In that closing inning in the World Series.
Right. That was just the point.
Yeah, that he threw a complete screwball. Like, where the hell was that going?
Yeah.
And with men on base, with the winning run, nobody ever brings that up.
Have you been to Citi Field?
Not recently. I wish.
Me neither.
I was seriously thinking about packing it up and driving all the way out to Philly to watch just the opening game. I was seriously going to do that one night. I can never get anybody to go to Met games with me.
It's rough.
Nobody wants to go.
You know what it is, too? You work and, not everybody has – it's not 1980 anymore. Not everybody's working, 8 to 5 or 7 to 4 and, it's home. A lot of people work odd hours and stuff like that now. I mean, it's hard to get out, especially like where you live and where I live in Long Island. It's not like it's like down the road. It's a long drive. And I do remember going, and one of my funnest moments was when I went to see them, and I think it was 99 and 2000. And I do remember the one in 99. That was a great year. They didn't make the World Series, but I saw a back-to-back. Me and my friend went and saw a back-to-back Piazza and Olerud. Olerud and Piazza hit home runs, and that was a pretty good game. Yeah, it was fun. I still remember that night. You have such vivid memories about fun nights like that. I still remember me and my friend looking down. How we were like in the little upper tier, but not. It was right below the people who were right by the field. So it was a great seat. You saw everything. And we still remember looking down and laughing at this kid's hair. He had like a bowl haircut, that kind of. And every time he moved his head, his hair would like wiggle. And so you remember little things like that. It's fun times, though.
I remember one time I was behind this guy and his hair looked like the back of a surfboard. He was like balding so much, and he kept like pulling his hair back like in a ponytail. And he was so balding from the back, his hair just came down into like a surfboard. And I remember me and my friend kept cracking up laughing, and the guy just like turned around, like looked at us, and we're like, "Oh shit,"
Oh man.
I mean, that was like in 5th grade, and I'll never forget that. I mean, just the characters you see at a Mets game alone.
Yeah, anywhere really, anywhere. You go to malls when you're younger and stuff. It's just such fun, funny memories. And let's end with this, Tony. Not to get into it too much, but I enjoyed that Fred the Elephant footage that you sent me of him in where was that again?
And it's Carluzzo, Yeah.
Because Fred
the Elephant.
Yeah, I was gonna say Fred comes on with me every month now, and he's a really nice guy. I mean, he's a little hard to understand at times, but he's very political too. So, but I just let him, go off and stuff like that, and he answers everything, and he's a funny dude. He's a Whack Pack original, so you got to love that, and he's retired now, so he has time, and he comes on every month, but. You sent me that footage, and I don't know if it was him or his friend had the Mets thing. He's a Mets fan, too.
Yeah. It was actually, it's been rumored to be his older brother because he's just like him and everything. Even his mannerisms, everything about him.
Looks just like him.
That guy used to go to some of the lowest of low-end Jersey Indies and wrestle as Kid Vicious under the mask. And believe it or not, he made the first PWI Top 500. I'm not joking. I think he was number 500.
Are you talking about Fred or the guy that was with him?
The guy that was with him. Used to
okay.
wrestle in Independence. And it's rumored to be Fred's older brother, which is why Fred is such a huge, avid... And if I didn't know any better, I'd swear to God, that guy's got to be his brother. They look just alike.
Looks just like him, yeah. And I know you listened to that interview. Dennis Caluso loved him?
Dennis Carluzzo loved Fred the Elephant Boy.
Yeah.
He would bring in like all the Whack Pack. They had like a, who was it? I want to say it was Wendy the Retard on one of Dennis Carluzzo's shows, sang the national anthem.
Right. That's awesome.
But yeah, look in the original top 500 PWI top 500. He's like Kid Vicious is like 496.
Wow.
And it says, we don't know if this is a joke or where they got this guy or whoever it is under the mask. They just basically said what a joke it was. And it was a joke that everybody was in on, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Dennis loved, like, even in Memphis, he said that, he went to the local record store, and they're like, hey, man, we saw you on TV. Are you really Jerry Lawler? Is this really Lawler? Is it legitimate kids? And he's like, yeah, sure it is. If you know Dennis, they started handing him free CDs, and he's just like, yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, we'll make sure that we, all right here.
I mean,
Dennis
Fred was
always
telling
something else.
I mean, you listened to some of it, too, because you had messaged me, and that's how you wound up sending me the footage. And Fred's got some wrestling stories, too, Fred the Elephant Boy. He was in Mick Foley. He went to Mick Foley's wedding, and I think he helped Howard get a couple, I guess through Mick, obviously. He helped Howard get a bunch of WWE guys on back in the early 2000s and stuff like that. Real interesting stuff.
Yeah, they had like around like 91 when Foley was basically not that heard of. I mean, he was busting his ass on the indies, but he was the one guy that was really nice to Fred. And Fred brought him on the show, and then from there, Rick Rude was on the show later on. And
right.
Yeah, a bunch of them, man. But like, Fred was one of the guys, loyal pro wrestling fan. I downloaded a bunch of stuff. Now, whenever I see it pop up in the feed for Reckless Airwaves, I always download Fred's stuff because, I mean, hard to understand. Even my cousin had a ball recalling like the first time that his coworkers had told him they kept sending stuff to Howard going, this fucking guy stinks, man. This guy, he doesn't shower, And they would bust his balls, but they go, you got to see this guy. He's a character. It was all Fred's, it was all of his coworkers.
Right.
And the next thing you know, Howard Stern brought him on the show. He's like, hey, Fred, this is a bar of soap. But the wonderful thing about Stern, he provided one hell of a career for all of them.
Oh, yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Like, they make good money on side gigs. They're well managed.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Howard is he is so loyal to. Yeah, he'll fuck with Marianne from Brooklyn, and he'll screw around. He'll make fun of people or whatever. Although in his older age, he's slowed down with that. But
I was just gonna say, I was gonna say, like, he doesn't do any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
He's distanced himself, and these guys have told me. I've had, who do I have on? I have Speech Impediment Man on too. Every month as well, and he said it. Fred I had Tam on. They basically said that Howard really doesn't really want anything to do with the Whack Pack that much anymore. Because Howard, the last 10 to 15 years, he wants to be mainstream. He wants to be inside Hollywood. You know, he's not interested in doing, you know, whack pack stuff anymore in interviews like that and making fun of people. He wants to, you know, did you see I got to send it to you. Did you see that Howard Stern leaked meeting or whatever, like summit that he had with all his workers from 2013, where basically, you know, all he talks about is that they have to get A-listers on, and you know, they got to make it into a more respectable place, and you got to dress right and everything. All the things that he would have made fun of back in the day, you know, he's basically, you know, gone full circle, and he's the other way now. So, and now I hear he doesn't even go to the studio anymore. Like, he's basically just mailing it in.
Yeah, I think as time has went on,
he's done.
He realized he's went as far as he could go. He's went as far as he could go, and he just has to be active. He has to be a part of it. Obviously, he's got all the money in the world. I mean, he'll never spend what he has amassed in his lifetime. And, you know, his success, it didn't come just because he was a shock jock or, you know, those things have existed since damn near the beginning of time. But he overly succeeded because he was always an interesting guy. He always did things of interest. Listen to his interview. His interview is some of the best I've ever heard of him interviewing people, you know. And but yeah, too, he doesn't want to get anywhere near. And he felt premonition, you know. He had to have felt it that as time goes on, people are just going to be more and more of the PC and cancel culture, you know. Yeah, for comedians nowadays, it's got to be damn near impossible to not offend anybody.
That's something that I talk about daily with just about everybody who comes on. It's like, back in the day, you used to be able to make fun of people, you know, do all kinds of stuff like that, and nobody took it that as personally as they do now. And I think Howard Stern, I mean, he should count his, you know, his lucky stars every night, because, you know, we've seen so many people, you know, get canceled or whatever you want to call it, and, you know, for stuff they said, you know, 10 years ago and stuff. And let's be honest, Howard has a long laundry list of some very crazy stuff that he said on that show. I mean, you know, racial stuff all the time. All the time. And I think he gets a little bit of a pass because he has Robin Quivers, who you know, the black co-host with him that kind of will, you know, have his back on it. But I mean, you know, Don Imus got basically, fired for making fun of a black woman's hair, the basketball team. And, you know, he had said stuff in the past too. They all did. Because, you know, back then you made fun of everybody. But Howard, he's dodged a bullet. You know, he's still got to do his America's Got Talent nonsense and all that stuff. And, you know, never really had to answer for a lot of the stuff he did. Got a pass, I would say, so far.
Yeah. Too, I think as time goes on with him, you know, what is there really left for him to do and or accomplish?
There's nothing.
What is
it's over for him now. He doesn't have to drive. There was a story in the New York Post this week or last week basically saying that the Stern Show is like a shell of itself. It's basically, you know, he only does it 3 times a week. He doesn't go to the studio. He does it from home now, you know, ever since the COVID. You know, it's not really funny. All the people who used to go on, including, you know, all the whack pack people we're talking about, say they don't even listen anymore. You know, he doesn't have them on anymore. So, I mean, I haven't listened in years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, too. I think the show had completely peaked out. Once Artie Lang left, there was a lot of people that pretty much were like, all right, it's done. Because Artie put it best. Artie doesn't draw too much attention, you know, which everybody always brings it up that he was on the Howard Stern show, how it all unraveled for him, you know, drug addiction, this, that, and the other. But, God, Artie added so much life to the show because he was like anything that none of the other guys, none of the other people were with. Artie Lang himself, he's addressed it just a couple of times because it's one of those things you could tell he doesn't want to harp on. And he is very appreciative of Howard, but Artie put it best. He said, we were the caddies in Caddyshack. Now he's interviewing Ellen DeGeneres.
Dude.
If anything, we would have, you know, they would have torn her to pieces.
Yes. But you got it. I'm going to send this thing to you. This summit that he did. all he's talking about in this thing, he's basically just harping on the people who work there, saying they got to do this, they got to do that, and all he wants to do, all he talks about is getting Lady Gaga in to interview her and stuff. That's not Howard Stern. He would have been doing skits about Lady Gaga, making fun of her, not basically begging people to, get her in for an interview. But it's just not the same guy. He's just not. He hasn't been for a long time.
Artie had continued with saying that, and this is such a great point too. He said that, like, even Eric the Conqueror, instead of Eric the Retard, Eric the Conqueror, he's like, are you kidding? And he's like, even him, he had to change this guy's name. Of everything that everybody knew about him. He's like, that right there just shows you. He's like, that's the last punch in the face. Yeah, that it's just, he doesn't want to offend anybody. He is scared to death to say something else. I mean, here's a guy who had to go on the day after Selena was murdered and had to go on there and apologize to all the Latino people because he played her song with gunshots in it.
Right.
The day she died. Yeah, so I mean, here's a guy that he learned his lesson on that one, boy. He ate it on that one. He was even speaking the entire thing in Spanish when he was like, I didn't mean to offend anybody like that. It was taken out of context, of what we were talking about. And he had never put on the brakes like that. But with something that drastic and the backlash he got against the Latinos, from the Latinos, he knew, hey, this draws a line. It's one of the key things that killed, like Cindy Crawford in her heyday. When she made the comment about Latinos, she said, I think they were talking about J-Lo, and she said, either it's something cultural or she was giving something. She was given a vote of self-confidence within herself, that makes her that proud of that, talking about her ass,
Right.
And, a lot of people point to that as, that was the end of Cindy Crawford right there, because when they would let her speak on her own, when she didn't have anybody talking for her and she says stuff like that, there's an enormous Latino population, so.
Yeah, right.
But, even with Howard, there would be times in the past where he'd realize he screwed up and he would put the brakes on, but now it's just him tiptoeing around everything, and I think what he needs to do, I think what he's doing is just...
I think he needs to retire.
Just pretty much just daily therapy. He's just telling you how his day went. And...
Yeah, it's boring. That's why nobody listens to it anymore. Now, we're talking 2013. This is almost 10 years ago when this thing I'm going to send you, this summit that he had with all the people that work for him. And one of the most glaring things he said, now the whole thing is kind of, amazing to hear, because this is a guy who was never afraid of anybody, and now he's basically, like you said, he's afraid of everything. And one of the things he says is, he's like, we're going to redo the green room, so when a guest comes in or a manager comes in, they want to be impressed. We're going to put all our awards up there, and we're going to put this and that. He's like, if they walk in there and they see a picture of I can't remember, Eric the Midget or one of them. He's like, the publicist is going to look at that and go, ugh, this guy's gross. He's, this show's weird. And then, they're not want to, put their client on. I'm like, this is Howard Stern? He's like, yeah, if they don't.
Which used to be,
like,
that used to be the other way around. His charm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be his charm,
This is the guy who used to send Stuttering John out to these publicists.
Stuttering John,
just to kill them, and now he's totally flip flopped. So that's why everybody says that Stern sold out. He sold out. He got a little
like that. That used to be some of my favorite stuff. Was when Stuttering John would go to interview Raquel Welch, and she wound up like slapping her around.
I had Stuttering John on.
Morton Downey Jr. like lunged at him and started choking.
I remember that.
Those used to be the best.
Yeah, those were great. The two guys that I've had on that have a lot of bitter feelings toward Howard Stern is Stuttering John and Jackie the Joke Man. They feel that Howard kind of pushed them out, didn't really take care of them, and that one of the reasons Howard became became so big was because of those two, which is true. I mean, those were two of the biggest characters that he had. Remember the Channel 9 show?
I think where Jackie Martling really slipped up was he should have done what everybody else was doing when they went to leave terrestrial.
Yeah.
He was under some bad advice, or somebody had blown his head up for him to think he was too much more than. Jackie Martling is such a talented guy too. Talk about an entertainer.
Yeah.
And you know, of course Howard goes on. He leaves terrestrial, and he leaves him behind too, because from what I gather, they painted Jackie out to be this pain in the ass to deal with, as far as, you know, like if you notice, like Fred went right along with him. So did Robin.
Yeah.
You know, Howard had talked them all up into it. But yeah, I think when he left him behind, it was just like, where's Jackie? Why isn't Jackie here? And then come to find out, you know, apparently that was the case, was that he thought about the money that they were making and wanted more. Wanted a lot more.
Same thing with Stuttering John. That's kind of basically what happened with him, I think, is that he just wanted more money. And then he went to the Jay Leno show and stuff.
Yeah, he wound up weaving with the Tonight Show, which, can you really blame him? It's a lot easier gig.
Yeah.
It's a lot less work, and it's on national TV. And yeah, I think Howard's the classic example of like the Wile E. Coyote that caught the Roadrunner and said, now what? Yeah. I think Howard always wanted to be number one, and once he was, he just looked around and realized it was kind of lonely on top.
Yeah, and not only that, he wanted to become mainstream. He wanted to be one of these big stars that like hosted the Academy Awards, and he's just not, you know, cut out for that. You know, you can't do what he did and then just, you know, be an A-lister and stuff like that. That's just not who he is. And a lot of people say that was his goal originally, and that's why he used to lash out at Hollywood and send Stuttering John out to these, you know, to embarrass these guys, that they wouldn't, like, you know, do interviews on his show and stuff like that back in the day when he was really wild. So, you know, he wiggled his way around that over the years and did get some of them in. And, you know, it's a different Howard Stern the last 15 years.
When, yeah, I was fascinated. I listened to, you know, one of the more recent ones from a couple months ago was when he had Jim Carrey on, and Jim Carrey is talking about, you know, purchasing Charlie Chaplin's, you know, like Kane and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it just felt so empty and hollow. Like, Howard, you could have just done this with him on Zoom. You know, this could have been something for a Patreon network or something like this. You're putting this, and this is taking up, you know, all this time, and which is great. I mean, that would have been a dream come true, Howard Stern interviewing Jim Carrey, but now it just comes across as two old men that, you know, well, we're in quarantine, so yeah, let's talk together, you know.
Yeah.
But
it's not the same show.
Where I couldn't stop listening no more was he had Miley Cyrus on his show, and everything, you know, she talks about her drug problems, her drug past, and this, that, and the other. And you know, the Howard of old would have torn her to pieces.
Yeah. Well, made fun of her at least.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Especially after the whole, what was that, Good Vibes? What was that shit, that song that they played nonstop in like 2013?
Ooh, I don't know that.
Robin, no, she was dancing with that Robin Thicke guy, and because I'm a douchebag.
I vaguely remember it. I don't know the name of it though, but I know what you're talking about. Though.
Yeah, it was a complete flash in the pan. Like that alone, Howard Stern would have harked on and just trashed and ripped all over. I mean, this is the same guy. They went in for like, what was it, like 2 hours on Baba Booey when he threw out the first pitch of the Met game. Hit the umpire.
Yeah.
To me, that's one of the funniest. Just watching Artie Lang walking toward the mound, cracking up laughing, makes me hit the floor laughing.
Yeah.
I was like, Baba Booey goes to throw out the first.
They've all changed. You know, they've all gotten older. They've all they don't find the stuff that they did, you know, back in the day funny anymore, so they don't do it, I guess. You know, when Howard also, another thing I've seen a lot of people complaining about over the years, the last 10 plus years is, I mean, he has like these performances by singers and stuff that's go on and on. It's like, that's not how it's
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I
terrible.
fast forward through.
Who the heck wants to see
you know
that?
something? I always fast forwarded through those. I'm like, I've heard this
Who
song
wants
a
to see
billion
that?
times. Like, yeah, I'm like, Howard does, and that's about it. It reminds me of
It's like filler, though. Like filler, just to eat up time.
Yeah, and God, I don't want to throw any shade at this poor guy. You're a great guy. It just reminds me of, like, we did eventually Sex and Violence Midwest, and it was up in Chicago. And eventually I got to the point, I'm like, you're bringing in fucking Lil Wayne or Bow Wow or any of these fucking people into a club. Like, dude, this is some shit that you want to hang around. This has nothing to do with deathmatch wrestling or come on.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that. They didn't come here for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking, man, this is like you sitting up on the throne and hiring a very expensive court jester. This is of your personal interest. This is not helping a company grow, or you're not even trying to make any money because you've made money. Now you're just blowing it. Like, nobody's coming out to this. That guy's going to want way too much fucking money. It's like, it's like having Marilyn Manson play a fucking song to you. That's what you want, not what any fans want.
Right.
It's like, it's. I think it just became an overwhelming thing where it was like Howard realized long ago he's got the whole world in his hands. It's just, what's he gonna do with it? I mean, yeah, Beth and the shelter, and yeah, that's really cute to hear about. Save the animals, and but I mean, back in the day, Howard would have had no shot at a chick that looked like that. Former bikini model and shit.
And that's probably
one
of the reasons he's changed.
Yeah. I'll tell you, too, a huge change in him was the divorce. Because I remember him.
Yeah.
Those episodes were brutal. Because I was going through my first divorce listening to him. They were brutal. And caller after caller, Howard, you got to get off this divorce thing, man. We're tuning in and look what you're giving us, But, the show has had so many bright points and so many bright spots, but, oh, God, it's so far in the past. There's, I can still watch The Simpsons now because there's a spark of what used to be there in there. But, you're never going to see the Howard of old. I don't care what hair dye he uses.
Supposedly he has a wig, from what I hear. I don't know if that's true or not, but...
Yeah, they've always rumored that. Always have.
I can imagine that. I mean, the guy is older. A lot of people lose their hair. I mean, it wouldn't be just because he had long hair and thick hair doesn't mean he still does. It's probably.
I don't even know if the Stern Fan Network is on, but the fact that they didn't shut that thing down, that was the most negative conglomeration of fans on there. Holy shit, those people were brutal. And one of them showed a picture when Robin had her hair rebraided. And, you remember that? And Robin was bald. And I'm like, well, then she admitted in recent years, that she had cancer. She was fighting cancer. But it's like, just age with the rest of us. Don't.
That's it. That's it. There's no shame in it.
She hadn't been in the studio for like over a year at that point, so somebody knew something was going on.
Right.
They kept that under wraps. They kept that really, really covered. I was shocked at that.
Yeah. It's a memory now from our past, unfortunately, because like I said, I haven't listened to it in years, but it might be time for him to hang it up. He just signed a 5-year contract though, like last year, so he's got like 4.5 years to go, or 4 years to go at this point. Who knows? But I don't know. Ratings probably are very low compared to what they used to be.
He is now 60. God, what year was Howard born?
He's up there. Howard. Let me see. I'm on the computer right now. Howard Stern. Let's see what his age is. It'll come right up on his Wikipedia.
Yep.
Let's see. Wikipedia got it right here. He is. Let's see how old. He's 67 years old. So he's going to go into his 70s.
Oh God, I brought up the owner of IWA or of Sex and Violence Midwest. It's funny, I just got a text from him, which is why I always cut all that crap off of my phone when I'm talking to you. But yeah, he is he's past the age of legal retirement now, senior citizen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or did we jack our senior citizens up to like 70?
I think it's
okay.
65,
So he's past
but you
that
can
age.
go, yeah, he's past 65 though.
That right there is living proof. You could have all the money in the world, but what's your livelihood?
Yeah.
Because he's not doing that for the money. There's no way possible.
But he's
not
really
all
not
the money
even,
Stearns.
He's really not even doing much of it though. And like I said, he's been doing 3 days a week now for like a decade, which a lot of fans have always complained about. And he's mailing it in. He's not even has any interest to even go to the studio, from what I understand. He's just doing it from home. I mean, he doesn't even want to do this anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, which makes me really curious is what the hell is he going to do for the next 5 years on there? What can he possibly have?
Not too many people are going to know, because not too many people, tune in anymore.
The only thing that they didn't do, and I wish to God that they had done it, was Howard Stern, the teenage years, where it was supposed to be like a cartoon.
Yeah.
And they never did it. They never did it.
Yeah.
For one reason or 20 other reasons. But he, I just, once they all left terrestrial, it became a millionaires club. Because everybody that was hanging around there was worth $1 million at least.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Howard, who got $100 million overnight.
Yeah.
And they had to bring everybody on board and sign all them.
It changed immediately right there, and he might have been good for a few more years after that, but not many, because everybody kind of points to like 2007, 2008 was like the last time they thought Howard was still good. But it's funny because I was just listening to probably about last week. Don Imus, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was, that's obviously that's his longtime rival. They hated each other. Imus just passed away last year or the year before, whatever it was, and I was, looking at some old clips and stuff, and an old thing from like 2007 came up on YouTube where Howard was talking about how he would never, be on the air when he doesn't want to do it anymore, like Imus and stuff. And it's funny because you hear a lot of, and I've seen fans of Stern call in, and I've seen it on YouTube, not from listening, saying basically, you've become everything that you bitched about Imus becoming, and he gets so mad when they tell him that because he hates Imus. Even in death, he hates Imus. He did.
He said it even after it was all over for Don Imus, as irony would have it. True story too. He walked past, of all people, in a park. He walked past Don Imus in a park. Yeah. Don Imus goes, Howard, and Howard was just like, and like Imus kind of walked over. I was like,
well,
you ain't got nothing to say to me. Like,
I heard. Where did I hear this from? It was on. You know what it was? It was on the Howard Stern show. I think it was that the same thing you're talking about, that they came across each other in the street in New York or whatever, and that they had a pleasant conversation. So I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
And that it was nothing bad. They kind of, they're both old men at this point, I
know. It's
you're
over.
not gonna fight. It's over. But here's the thing, and we'll finish with this. We'll finish with this because this fascinated me because I'm a big Don Imus fan. The logo that I have his old LPs behind the gorilla on the logo that I have.
Yeah.
And so I heard that they came across each other in New York. They had a cordial, well, not pleasant, a cordial, I guess you would say, conversation, nothing bad, and that was it. And that they had asked Howard Stern. Oh, I got 90 seconds before this goes off the air. They had asked Howard Stern if he would interview Imus, and he said possibly. And that they told Imus about it, and Imus said that he might think about going on there. And obviously it never happened. But then when Imus died, said Howard Stern just taking the high road and saying, I hated the guy, but whatever, he's dead, let him rest in peace. He just ripped him again. And a lot of people were like, you know what, that's just not right. That's just cold, but
God.
It is what it is, We got 60
seconds
until we're cut off, Tony. They're telling me 60
All
seconds
right.
until we're cut off, but so I guess we got to end this. But next month, Tony, this was another great one. Did a solid hour and a half, like it was 5 minutes, like we always do. And we talked a lot of good stuff here besides wrestling.
Yeah, there's a whole world out there, not just confined to 4 wrestling posts. Yeah, man, it was a pleasure as always. And, man, it's so great to get it all out of me. And
we'll
always great
again.
talking to you, man.
Absolutely. We'll do this again.
I look so forward to it as always.
Absolutely. All right. Before they cut us off, thanks a lot, Tony.
Thank you so much. And once again, always.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good one, Tony.
Try my best.
You've been listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Check us out daily at recklessairwavesradio.com for all the latest Reckless interviews, as well as other Reckless shows, including The Rob and Slim Show, Corrigan's Corner, and Straight to the Point with Percy Crawford.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.